Well, here we go again. Just like last week. Last week I had 2 or 3 things I wanted to discuss, scrapped them because of terrorism. This week, same thing. I had 2 or 3 things I wanted to discuss, and I'm scrapping them because of terrorism, because of ISIS, because of the 5 Syrian guys who were caught in Central America with fake passports trying to sneak into the United States. So we have to discuss that, and ISIS, and the Caliphate, and the history of it, and maybe even the Trumpster. Today, on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black-letter bombers.
Well, I might as well just lead with the Trumpster, the Donald, and this big flap over him saying that wrongly being reported that he wants to register and track all Muslims. That's not what he said. That's a crock. That's a lie. But no one wants to check on it because everybody wants to bury the Trump. Now here we go with the nonsense. I have to say, I'm not a Trump guy. Well, I'm not a Trump guy. Who gives a crap? I'm not a Carson guy either, and I defended him last week. But that's beside the point. So, but the point is that at least some of these guys need to be tracked. They need to be registered somehow, and we need to know where the heck these guys are. Case in point. There were 5, count 'em, 5 fighting age young Syrian men that were delayed on a flight in Central America. Their plan was to go to Costa Rica, then to Honduras, then to Guatemala, then into Mexico, and then into the United States. They had fake passports, fake Greek passports, and they claimed that they were just normal Syrian citizens trying to escape the ravages and the violence. They were just poor little refugees trying to escape the ravages of the Syrian war. And they, boy, I'll tell you, they sure did take a convoluted route to get to America. Thank heavens they didn't make it here. But sure, they're innocents. Maybe they are, but, come on. They fled, or at least they said they fled, because they were afraid that they would be captured by ISIS and enslaved and then pressed into service. To fight for the ISIS Caliphate, for all Baghdadi there. Now, they didn't want to attract attention, so they spent a couple 3 days in each country that they landed in, countries like Brazil, and then they went to Argentina, and then they went to Costa Rica, and then, like I said, the plan was Honduras, then Guatemala, then Mexico, and then the United States. Yeah, these are just innocent little refugees. Golly crap, this ticks me off. And they wouldn't have even been caught, except for their flight was delayed, so somehow somebody figured this out, and if they were found to have 5 Syrian guys with 5 fake Greek passports, and then they were arrested. Thank heavens. And they still insist that they were just fleeing ISIS. Man, I'll tell you, if you're going to flee ISIS, how do you even do this? How do they get they're Syrian refugees. They only had carry-on bags, so they wouldn't alert attention with check-ins and stuff like that. But how does one even, a poor Syrian refugee, how does one afford to fly like 6 or 7 different flights from Syria to South America to Central America to the United States, or to Mexico, and then stroll on over the border where you're welcomed by Homeland Security and given all sorts of welfare freebies and stuff as a gift, a housewarming gift, so to speak. How do they even do this? It's not like they have been saving up for it or something like that, because they were apparently fleeing, and the only thing that they could take were the clothes on their backs and 1 carry-on bag. So they must have done this in a bloody hurry. But apparently they were planning this thing the whole time. Or, well, I don't know if the whole time or whatnot. But it did take some planning, I assume. that you don't just pop on a flight and say, get me the heck out of here because ISIS is breathing down my neck. That's not the way it happened. This seems a little fishy to me. I'm not saying that these guys are radicalized. I'm not saying anything. It just seems awfully bloody fishy to me. We've got enough problems in this country. From what I understand from the FBI, they have over 1,000 investigations in all 50 states involving ISIS. Just what we need to worry about are 5 more Syrian refugees of fighting age males, all early 20s, it looked to me like from the pictures. None of them starving. None of them look to be orphaned. Nothing. And these are the people that Obama and the Democrats just want to welcome with open arms. They don't have clue one who these people really are because they got fake frickin' passports. But like I said, these are the kind of guys that we're just going to blindly allow into this country, as if we don't have enough problems. Do we want a Paris attack? Is that what we want? Do we want a Mali attack? Is that what we want? Really? Because that's what they want. I guarantee you that's what they want. They've been wanting this for a not just years, not decades. We're talking centuries, folks. That's what these guys live in. They live in the 15th, 14th, 8th, 7th century. That's where these people are living, and that's what these guys have been taught. That's what these ISIS fighters have been taught. They've been taught the golden age of the Caliphate, and that they want to get it back. And one of the reasons why they're terrorizing Europe, and they will be, trust me, you gotta be stupid not to think that they're gonna attack America. You gotta be a complete brain-dead moron to think that this isn't gonna happen in America if we continue down this path of stupidity. But one of the reasons why ISIS is terrorizing the way they are is not just for terror's sake. It's not just to scare the West into capitulating or doing whatever they think is going to happen. One of the reasons why they're terrorizing is so the decent Muslims in these European countries and whatnot, and America, are unable to live in Europe in peace because of the terrorist attacks. And that's what ISIS is looking for. They want to reconstitute the Caliphate, obviously, and they're using these attacks to, like I said, not only terrorize the West, but to turn the West against decent Muslims or the Muslim citizens that are already living there, making it impossible for them to live in the West. And ISIS even said, here we go, here's a quote for you from ISIS. Quote, "For then, Muslims in Crusader countries," geez, I wonder why they use Crusader countries. For then, Muslims in the Crusader countries will find themselves driven to abandon their homes and will go live in the Caliphate. That's what they're looking for. They're looking to reconstitute and rebuild the Caliphate, and they need fighters to do so. They need people like the 5 Syrian innocents that are going to be pressed into service if they stay there, or so they say. And this is why they're doing what they're doing, not just to terrorize the West, but to turn the West against the good Muslims.
You're listening to the Common Constitution. Let the truth be known.
Sorry. I just noticed how agitated I'm getting over this, and I apologize. Well, you know what? I don't really apologize, because this is deadly. This is literally deadly serious. Look at the attack in heck, look at the latest attack in Mali. I mean, the carnage was unspeakable, unbelievable. There was even I think at least one American aid worker that was butchered in the hotel in Mali. But that's well, I guess it's a discussion for another day, but it's kind of the whole discussion. But the point is, I guess, is that these jihadists, the ISIS jihadists, they don't look at this as a modern day event. They have really, really long memories, and they want to relive the glory days of the Caliphate of the Ottoman Empire. That's what they're looking to. That's what these guys have been taught. That's what they're being taught now, is to look to the golden age of the Ottoman Empire, of the Caliphate. That's why they call us the Crusaders, because they've been in a constant struggle for supremacy versus Christianity for centuries. And just because we Christians have forgotten the Crusades and forgotten the battles with the Ottoman Turks, the Ottoman Empire, the Muslims, however you want to describe them, just because we've forgotten them, just because they're in the dustbin of our history, doesn't make it so for these guys. They remember it like it was yesterday, because that's how they're taught. Fact is the Christians and Muslims have been battling for centuries, thousands of years, 1,000 years, whatever. And back in the early 600s, just as Muhammad was getting his start, for want of a better term, most of the Middle East, most of that area that became the Caliphate, or the Ottoman Empire, Turk Empire, was Christian. And then Muhammad went on his rampage and whatnot, and they started to conquer the Christian areas, and they started to subordinate Christians to the Ottoman Empire. But the Christians continued they never did conquer Europe completely. The Christians kept beating them back. The Byzantine Empire kept beating them back for their want to take Constantinople. And it wasn't until 1453, I think, where the Ottoman Turks finally took Constantinople and were able to extend the Caliphate. But then again, here come the Christians again, and later on, centuries later, when the British and the French, the big colonialist period of the British and the French, they started taking over these areas again from the Muslims and subordinating the Muslims, I guess. They thought that, they were second-class citizens. That's what they thought of themselves. And that's ticked them off ever since. And this is what's driving these people. It's nothing current. It's nothing modern. It's not a modern era terrorism thing. This goes back centuries, folks, and we gotta know this stuff. This, again, like I said, this is the reason why they call us the Crusaders. It's not just some stupid nickname. It's not just some coined phrase. This is the reason. This is the background. This is why they call us what they call us. And as far as the European and American good Muslims, however you want to classify them, they're as bad as the Crusaders, man. You're basically either with them or you're against them. That's it. And ISIS is even quoted as saying, either you are with the crusade or you are with Islam. Period. You can't have both. So you cannot be a Muslim living in the West, under the West's rule, democratic rule, and be with Islam. It can't happen. And if you are if you're with the crusade, as it were, then you're gonna die. It's that simple. Just like the Christians will. And so this all comes full circle. Centuries and centuries and centuries of this conflict all come full circle. As a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, that just a couple of days ago, maybe even yesterday, it was reported that Iran had a mock conquering of the Jerusalem Al-Aqsa Mosque. That they made a mock-up in the center of Iran, in some area in the center of Iran, and they had I don't know if it was the Republican Guard or some Iranian troops. They invaded the Al-Aqsa, the mock-up of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, and conquered it. Took it from the Israelis and conquered it. They had drones, they had gunships, they had troops, they had everything that they took this mock-up. It was unbelievable. But this ain't just propaganda. They don't do this stuff. They don't expend this time, this effort, this money for propaganda. This is what they want to do. And here we are, Kerry and Obama, bending over backwards, grabbing their ankles to make a deal with these jerks in Iran. And this is what they're up to. No good. We all know it. Why can't they see it? Unbelievable. And so it comes all the way back to the Donald, who said that, yeah, we should register Muslims. And yeah, sure, we should start looking at monitoring mosques and closing some of them down. Like I wonder, the Cambridge Mosque maybe, where many a radical has come out of, including the Tsarnaev brothers, the Boston bombers, and the Arizona Mosque, where that guy was, who was that guy who went into a company and beheaded one of the employees, terrorized them and whatnot, in Arizona, I think it was. He actually even had, if I recall correctly, he had ties to the Cambridge Mosque also, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the imams from the Cambridge Mosque came and spoke or something like that and turned this guy. So sure, they should, at minimum, some of these radical mosques should be monitored, and if something nefarious like this is consistently going on there, then the heck with it. I would say the same thing of a Christian church, of a Jewish synagogue. I don't care. If this is what you're doing in a supposed house of worship, the heck with you. Close you down, baby. And that kind of stuff is a far cry from martial law. This is not Russia, okay? This isn't communist Russia or communist China. We don't need to register and monitor Grandma Moses. It's these guys that are suspected already. We know at least some of who these people are. We know where they go. We know where they frequent and who they communicate with. Yet, in some aspects, our hands are completely tied because we've tied them. It's just absolutely absurd. So I agree with Trump. The whole border thing and the wall, and sure, you want to get Mexico go to pay for it. Sure, knock yourself out. Maybe they'll throw a couple of pesos your way. Who knows? But if we don't start doing some smart policing, some smart surveillance, some of these things individually, unfortunately what's going to end up happening is we're going to have the umbrella of the state, so to speak, when things get really bad, and it's going to be an institute martial law, there are going to be curfews, or all sorts of stuff, and by that time it'll be too late to monitor individuals and to shut down individual places and monitor areas. It's going to be all or nothing by that time. So we could either do it the smart way, and use the resources we've got to go after the people who are obviously doing this or suspected of doing this, or we can wait and assume that everybody's innocent until the point where everybody becomes a suspect, and then there's nobody that's innocent, and everybody's turning on everybody else. And that's unfortunately what we're going to end up with if we don't get smart. So I think my blood pressure's at the point where it's about to boil over, and I've got plenty more to say, but I'm done. I'm done. I hope maybe I'll just skip all this crap next week and talk about something fun for a change. Like I had an article where, because of climate change, some Dutch guy or somebody in Europe thinks that men will devolve into the size of chickens to be able to feed ourselves. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. I don't know, but I hope y'all have a good day. I'm going to try and salvage the rest of mine, and I'll talk to you next week.